Hi folks, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about some malt bread I've made, and I'll show you what I did earlier. So we were using this stuff. Do you remember this from another video? Yep. And the weird thing is the malt bread did actually look absolutely beautiful. Now these people here do actually exist, and I have actually found them on the net. I'll show you a bit of their video. This is what they actually did. This is actually a malt bread they actually made. Now, obviously, this company's been going for such a long time. It's unbelievable. But I didn't realize it that actually in its day, this was actually a premix. And in fact, I couldn't believe it. I found it on there now in the last few days. And I thought, I've been looking for the recipe. And in the comments under that video, people were asking, well, and a recipe is it? It's premix. And even today, I didn't realize at the time, back in the 70s, I was actually using a premix. But nevertheless, with the magic of this product and another numbers of products and lots of workings out, and obviously an old recipe as well, I found, I've managed to concoct a malt loaf, which is absolutely beautiful. And I'm really, really pleased with it because it does make a difference when you've got something you really think is going to work well with all the ingredients. I've tested it out. Now you're going to see me testing it in this next video. So what I'm going to do, I'll let this run through and you can see it for yourself. We're making a traditional malt bread recipe. And in the bowl, we got 450 grams of baker's white flour, 50 grams of dynastic malt powder, and 8 grams of salt, and 20 grams of yeast, 150 grams of sultanas, soaking in some Yorkshire tea. Also, we have 50 grams of malt extract and 50 grams of black treacle. Now we're going to add into our machine bowl our syrups and 280 milliliters of warm water. Add in all your dried ingredients and 12 grams of white shortening. Just get your hook and give it a good stir around so it just starts it mixing. We're now going to be mixing this on our machine for 10 minutes on first speed. So it's a nice creamy dough. Now remember, this is going to be very, very sticky. So beware. It's not got to be runny, it's a sticky dough fully. And remember, this was actually my test bake. I've just filmed it as I go along. Now just take a look at this. This is what you call sticky. This isn't mixed, this is just in the first 5 minutes. So you've got to bear in mind. See, it's just starting to come together. Right, we'll get it back on the machine and give it another 5 minutes. While your dough is mixing, you can prepare yourself 2 1-pound tins. They really want straight edges, really. It does help, and also to make sure you've well lubricated them inside. Now we'll add our strained off sultanas into the dough. Now as you can see, that's quite sticky. And we'll mix that now for just 1 minute, just to clear the fruit, so we don't crush it all together. Now our dough's ready, put it into a bowl. Do make sure it's well greased. And now we're going to be covering this over with a cloth, and your dough will be resting for around about 30 minutes. Well, our dough's been resting for around about 30 minutes. So we'll now take it out and put it straight onto the table. You can see that. Just look at that. It's just nicely proved up. Spray your table with spray oil, or you'll probably need a bit of flour as well. But this actually helps because it's so soft. The lubrication is the oil. Now we'll be scaling the dough off into 2 pieces. They're going to be around about a pound in weight. And now for molding up, you do need some flour. And all we're going to be doing is sort of folding them over. Just like that. It's almost like doing sourdough, really. Once again, Just sort of fold it over and over. And once again, do it the other way as well. That's it. So they're nice, smooth enough to go in the tins. Right, then we'll put them straight into the tins. So just pop them in. And that's it. So the next thing we're going to be doing is proving these up. Now we're going to dry prove these now for around about 1 hour, give or take. Now the temperature for proving is around about 25 to 30 Celsius. This is what it looks like after 30 minutes. Our malt bread is nearly ready, so it's now time to get our oven on. Our oven temperature wants to be 195 Celsius. Now for baking, you need to put a lid on them. So we're going to be using a metal tray. Now a good idea is to put a couple of cupfuls of water into your oven. This just helps. We're now going to get our malt bread into the oven. Now I'll just refresh your memory. The temperature for baking these is 30 minutes at 195 Celsius and 25 minutes at 180 Celsius. And we're going to be baking them in the oven for 55 minutes. Do not open the oven. And now we're going to pop our lid on and we're ready for baking. Our malt bread's ready, so we're going to get them straight out and put them onto a wire. Now be very careful with these, they are hot. Once you get them out the tins, all we need to be doing is washing the tops over with malt extract. Now malt extract added with some warm water, and that's all we're going to be doing is washing the tops over. It just gives that little bit of the top a bit of a glaze, and also you get that light almost kick of malt. So we're now going to let them cool down for around about an hour, so we can actually cut them open, so I can actually show you inside and what they're like. So the loaf's now cooled down, so we'll now cut her open and have a look inside. Cool, and that does not smell beautiful. Now this just reminds me back to when I was a young boy, back in the 1970s when we used to do the malt bread. And the texture of that is absolutely beautiful. And it's not too, what I call sklodgy inside, if there's such a word. But that is absolutely beautiful. That is a very, very nice malt loaf. And even now, this is an hour and a half and it's still warm. And that fruit is lovely and soft inside. Oh, it smells absolutely beautiful. And that taste, you need to taste that. You need to make this malt loaf. This is better than the supermarket stuff and the big... Well, there you go, folks. And if you enjoyed that video, please subscribe and please share. Now, I can tell you that was great fun making that malt bread up. Because at the same time as I was actually making that malt bread, I was actually building a utility room. Hey, it goes without saying. But thanks to these guys, or it's a no thanks. But in fact, I hadn't even noticed. It does say in the back of this book, and I was quite amazed, really. It did say it was a premix. Well, perhaps I should have learnt to read when I was at school, but now I would have got all my malts and everything from these guys because they're still going. I do get my malt cob from these people, so that's what goes in. And most of the time, I would have been using these all the way through. But unfortunately, they don't sell this one. Or they do, and I can't obtain it. And again, the XDIA Delistic malt. This is another product which is actually in this book as well, which I didn't know what the heck. It's changed the names because like a lot of things in this book, it's completely different to what it is today. I mean, they called, I mean, the malt premix was Millcat malt. Look, as the book falls to pieces. See? And that was the premix back in its day. Today, I think they call it sticky malt. Now, the big company that actually manufactures malt bread now, the leading one, begins with S. Can't remember what it's called. I'm not going to embarrass you by calling it something else. And you can just imagine anything that begins with S. Now, that company buys all their ingredients from these boys. So you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be about the same. Now, it's quite important when you're using this type of product. It does say, and also the other malt, it does say you shouldn't be using lots of this. Well, I've actually used what I believe is the correct amount. I've worked out myself. We've done the test bake. You've seen it. It comes out, and I'll tell you what, that is a banging loaf. It's a must make. It took me, well, a good few days to put this together, and my workings out, I've gone from big scale. In fact, what I did is, I'll give you some idea. I took the original recipe from the premix, so I knew what water and everything needs to be done. And also I knew how much white flour had to be going into it. So I did have a good idea what I'm doing. And I guess that's why I'm a professional baker. And sometimes I can look at recipes on YouTube and say, that won't work. And usually I'm right. So if you like this type of content, please subscribe and please share. And don't forget to check out the description, which there may be a recipe in there, or there may be a link to the recipe, because that video will be loaded up as a proper video. And we'll see you again very shortly on the Crazy Baker channel. Laters!